Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live, talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynn@pghcitypaper.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Hello there. Welcome to the program. It's the 16th of October, 2018. And, there's a bit of a chill in the air, which I frankly love. My sister Susan's in Green Bay, Wisconsin, where there's more of a chill in the air.
There certainly is more of a chill in the air. I mean, I've got a wool hat, wool socks, wool-lined shoes, gloves.
Do you have snow there?
No snow. No snow. But it's just cold. I mean, it's in
cold.
The 20s in the morning when I'm walking the dog.
Yeah. Well, I'm only in it was 35 when I walked the dog today. But it's weird. In the morning, when I go outside, cold doesn't bother me.
No, it feels wonderful.
I know. In the afternoon, the cold bothers me. At night, the cold does not bother. I don't know what it is that my body temperature seems to go down in the middle of the day or something, and I find what was perfectly enjoyable in the morning. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but Blue and I were watching the Garbage Guys today. Man, do they have it down to a science. It's impressive watching them go. I even said to one of them, I said, wow, way to go. You guys are amazing. So, just saying.
Did they enjoy the compliment, or did they think that they were being
no. It was just one guy that I said it to, and he smiled. I don't know, he might have thought I was insane, but he seemed to take it as a compliment. I meant it as a compliment. I mean, they really work it. They really were moving fast. They had a system. And I was just impressed by how hard they were working. Wow. That's a tough job. Anyway, here's something else I saw, Susan, the other day. I was driving in my car, and I was on a residential street, and a woman on a bike barrels out of a side street into it, practically right into my car. And she was wearing a helmet, wearing a skirt, and wearing what had to be 5-inch heels.
Idiot.
Well, I'm looking at her and thinking, good for you for the helmet. But I don't think 5-inch heels on a bike is a smart thing, is it?
Well, she's going to ruin the shoes.
Well, I'm not thinking about the shoes. Why is she going to ruin them?
Well, I'm just saying I don't see how that works without you ruining the shoes.
Well, the shoes...
First of all. But second of all, no, that's just ridiculous.
Well, the heel is not on the pedal. The heel, the toe part is on the heel is hanging off the
right, and
back
if you've got a 5-inch heel hanging off below...
Yeah.
Under the pedal, you don't think that that's going to be hitting stuff and stuff?
Maybe stuff and stuff. I don't know. But I'm thinking, wait a minute. That just something doesn't seem right here. And she looked a little wobbly to me in general, the way she careened into But 5-inch
Okay, can I just say that suddenly you dropped down into a can of weirdness?
Am I still in a can of weirdness?
No.
Good. Don't know. Okay, I just had to report the 5-inch heels. By the way, they were not stiletto. They were like these big wooden block kind of things. Do you know what I mean?
They were more fashionable. They were the new block heel.
Is that what that is? It's a big friggin' looks like a tree trunk.
Yeah.
That's the new style? 5-inch tree trunks?
Back to the 70s, you betcha.
Oh, God. Okay, here's something else I saw that I have to share, and I didn't before.
Wait a minute. So was she upset that you almost
got
into your car? She wasn't mad at you? You weren't upset with her in any way?
No. I mean, she startled me, And she sort of looked at, I don't think she gave me a nice look. It was like she was annoyed that I was on the road, and she almost hit me. I didn't hit her.
Right. This is you. I thought the story was going to be about one of my pet peeves, the way bicyclists seem to think that even though they're sharing the road with a car that can kill them,
right,
they don't need to follow the rules of the road.
Well, that's right. I mean, a lot of them don't. I'm always so impressed when I see a bicyclist at a light, that's red, sitting there stopped like all the rest of the cars, and it might be cold or it might be raining, and they could just keep moving like most of them do, and they sit there and follow the rules. And I just think that is so amazing when they do that. But I don't expect it.
I don't want to kill someone.
Yeah, I don't either. No, not today, not yet.
And especially in an urban environment, if you are driving in an urban environment, as you are in Pittsburgh and I am in Chicago, there's an awful lot to be aware of besides bicycle that appears out of nowhere and doesn't care whether they're at a 4-way stop or a 3-way stop or a light.
Right.
It's just.
I know. They make very nervous. And right, I'm sure if you're on a bicycle, we make them very nervous, and I completely understand.
Chicago passed a law that I find so confusing because they did not say that they don't have to follow the rules of the road, but they then gave them carte blanche to always have the right-of-way.
A bicycle always has the right-of-way over a car, just like a pedestrian does, or does a pedestrian?
I think so.
Not if they're jaywalking.
So now they're never stopping.
Well, guess you better get on a bike.
I don't know how those two rules can coexist, but anyway.
I don't either. So I have something that I saw, and I forgot to share it with the audience, so I'm sharing it now. It was the most mind-boggling caption on a picture, and it was like a day or two after Hurricane Michael hit. And it was a picture of a totally destroyed store. Well, the front was off, and you could see whatever food or clothes or whatever was in the store scattered all over the place. And there are people in there. And here was the caption: "People salvage supplies from a destroyed business the day after Hurricane Michael."
Oh, they aren't looting?
No.
Because they're white.
You got it, Suze. They were...
I don't know why I'm laughing.
There's
absolutely nothing funny about that.
No, there's nothing funny about it. People salvage supplies from a destroyed business, which is the correct caption. It's also the correct caption if black people are doing it. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, really amazing. Stark.
There it is. And did you see the latest, black person, at least that it went?
Oh, yeah, from my erstwhile hometown of St. Louis?
Yeah. For people who
don't...
Yeah. Well, I
just want you to know, yeah.
This happens. This must happen all the time. This must happen constantly.
Well, it must happen all the time, but this guy at least had the presence of mind to be recording. And still...
This is a guy, for people who don't know, let's tell them. 24-year-old black man goes home. He lives in a condominium complex. In
the city of St. Louis. In downtown St. Louis.
In the city of St. Louis. And he is blocked from entering the entrance by a woman, white. And he says, "Please move, ma'am." He calls her ma'am the entire time. And she says, "I can, but do you live here?" And he said, "Yes, I live here." And believe it or not, this goes on. She follows him. He gets by her. She follows him in the elevator.
She's so
she follows
scared of
him
him.
down
She
the
gets
hallway.
into the elevator
with him. You explain this to me. Then, about 30 minutes after the poor guy gets into his own condo and shuts the door, the police arrive. So she has called the cops. And the cops...
And lied to them, by the way.
Right.
Lied to them. Told them that he choked her and threatened her.
Oh, really?
And, of course, he's filmed the whole thing, so all he does is show this to the cops. But they came to arrest him. And he's just lucky that he taped it, and he's just lucky that they watched it.
And did you see, at the end, when he finally is about to go into his apartment, he turns to her and, no, this is right before. He says, "So now you're following me?" And she said, "Yes, I am." And he says, "I don't want to speak with you. Please stop following me. I'm going to call the cops. That's my next step." And it keeps going. This goes on apparently forever. And he says, "You just followed me all the way to my door. You see my keys? My keys in the door?" And she says this, "I just want to say hi. What's your name?" And he says, "Ma'am, you just know, have a good night, ma'am." And he goes into his apartment and closes the door. And then the cops arrive a half hour later. Do you believe this?
That's what happened. So I just want you to read. It is reported thusly in the St. Louis Post-Dispatch this morning. I want you to read a comment I want to read you a comment to that article.
No, don't. Okay, go.
Okay. The first line is, "In spite of the clickbait headline, this is not a racial issue."
Oh, dear.
I mean, I do not believe there was any racial element to this in spite of some people's attempt to make it so. And he says this is security, and you do not, if he forgot his fob. But he didn't forget his fob. He showed her his fob.
You mean if a 24-year-old white guy was coming in, she would have barred the entry? Yeah, right. Unbelievable. This is how this is what happens to black people living their lives. In every situation, going into a store, going into their own home, or as we know, they can be sitting in their own home. And someone can burst through the door and kill them because they think it's their apartment. Yeah, right. That kind of thing. I mean,
and then find marijuana in the apartment and try and blame the victim because he must have smoked marijuana, which, by the way, is legal in half the country and all of Canada.
Unbelievable. Well, okay. So
I just wanted to tell you that I just wanted to prove to you that when something that is so blatantly racist is filmed and shown, and one party, the black person, shown to be polite and in every way trying to avoid what's happening, and the white person being belligerent, lying, and inappropriate, and that the comments of the white people in the city of St. Louis is this is not a racial issue. You could not make it up.
Yeah.
And that guy isn't the only one. I just want to say.
No. I mean, obviously, you mean the commenter? No, of course not.
They think it's a matter of building security.
Sure. Okay. Tell yourself whatever you need to tell yourself.
Well, sure, it's a matter of building security. It's also a matter of the perception of white folks who, when they see black people in a blown-out building rescuing, liberating supplies, they're shot for looting. And when you see white people doing it, they are doing the right thing in an emergency situation.
They are salvaging supplies from a destroyed business. salvaging.
I mean, you
Susan.
can't convince me that if this woman had seen a white guy trying to get into the building right behind her, she would have been in any way alarmed.
Right, exactly right. Of course. Unbelievable. And by the way, the 24-year-old black guy runs a marketing consulting company, which is pretty goddamn impressive. Oh. So on the other side of that story in my paper today.
Wait a minute. I want to say one other thing because it made me want to cry. The guy in the article, the 24-year-old, says, look, part of it might have been my fault. I was wearing a hoodie.
Oh! Ah! Wow.
Made me want to cry.
Yeah. Wow.
Anyway.
Okay. All right. Jeez. I just want to say, okay, on the other side of that story in my paper was another story which gave me hope that there might be a way to get a lot of the climate deniers on board. And this is a study which has shown that the impact on crops, and particularly in this case barley, of droughts from global warming is likely to make the price...
Make a bottle of beer cost the same as a fine bottle of wine.
Exactly. They have figured, researchers say, that we could see this. I mean, it'll take, a few decades, definitely too late, but could double the price of a beer in Ireland, could make it in the Czech Republic 6 times more expensive, and the United States could lose up to 20% of its supply of beer, the U.S. and China drinking the most beer in the world. So just want to say, maybe that'll get them. What do you mean? My beer's going to cost more? You mean?
No, the orange person in Rain at that point will subsidize beer and take it out of the paychecks of the very same poor people.
Oh, God. Dear Lord. Okay, I have something interesting about Sears. I always liked Sears. You could get anything there.
I liked Sears, too. It was my go-to place for a lot of my early years for just about everything.
Well, yeah, I got my appliances there.
Their appliances were high-class appliances.
Well, yeah, and I got my car fixed there, and I got all my gardening stuff. I bought mattresses there, kids' clothes. I got, housewares. I mean, I loved it. It was a one-stop shop. So I just want to say, also, it has a fascinating piece that actually I read two doing the same thing about how Sears and its catalog in the 19th century, so in the late 1800s, actually helped black people because through the catalog they could buy things that if they went into a shop or a store, a general store in the South, they were not allowed to buy, or they could only buy like the worst stuff, the worst foodstuffs. They were not given the right to buy.
You could buy a prefab house.
You could buy all of this stuff by yourself, and with avoiding the white sons of bitches who owned the stores. Historians say that purchasing everyday goods was an exercise in humiliation for African Americans in the South. And because of, and often the owner of the only store was also the guy whose farm they worked on as sharecroppers. And they determined what you could buy or couldn't buy, and you could only be waited on after every single white person was waited on. So in 1894, when Sears began sending out its illustrated catalogs, they went out of their way so that they did all kinds of things where even if a black person couldn't buy a stamp because you had to get the stamp at the country store too, and they were told they could give the money. Sears made all these efforts to help them get around. The Jim Crow folks were so freaked out knowing that black people were using the Sears catalog to get uppity, I guess, started spreading a rumor that the owners of Sears Roebuck were blacks. And that's why they couldn't show their faces and have a real store. That's why they sent out the catalog. So that Mr. Sears had to actually publish photos that he was white. And Mr. Ward, who also was one of the owners, offered a reward in exchange for the name of the person who had started the rumor. Anyway, and here's another wonderful thing about Sears and African Americans. A guy named Julius Rosenwald bought up Roebuck's share in 1895. So he was the one of the major owners, Julius Rosenwald. And he became, and I remember doing this, finding this out years ago and doing a story on it. He built nearly 5,000 schools in the rural South between 1912 and 1932 to serve black people.
Well, when you become aware of a market, and when that market is good to you and you're good to them, and by the way, in terms of Jewish philanthropy, that is not unusual. I have to say, if you go back historically to Jews in the 19th century, say out in the West, Jewish merchants who were out there were also building the Catholic churches. And it's, I mean, it's really interesting when you go into these. If the cathedral in downtown Santa Fe was built by a Jewish man who was friends with
the priest?
Townspeople.
Oh, okay.
And it was his gift.
He built them a church.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a smart way to get along when, as a Jew, you know that you aren't always accepted.
But that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. There's a
history of the Rosenwald schools say that these schools were new and modern with big, tall windows, lots of light. They felt special. After Brown v. Board of Education, most of these schools shut down. But during the 1930s, 1 out of every 3 black children in the South attended a Rosenwald school. Maya Angelou, Representative John Lewis went. Rosenwald was the son of...
Well, if Maya Angelou did, then that means that they're calling St. Louis part of the American South, and he built a school in St. Louis. I don't know anything about that.
Well, I think we know St. Louis is in the South. The first...
yeah.
It's South.
Even even if they call themselves the gateway to the West.
No, they're in the South. They're so southern. It's so southern there. It's ridiculous. Anyway, Rosenwald also was a good friend of Booker T. Washington, served on the board of the Tuskegee Institute. He helped fund most of the black YMCAs and YWCAs, provided support to black artists and writers, including Marian Anderson, Langston Hughes, Gordon Parks, James Baldwin. So that's an interesting thing about Sears. And the Sears catalog, this is the last line in this piece, offered black shoppers something they couldn't find anywhere else: dignity. So they'll be missed.
Well, that's just a wonderful story, because he looked around and wanted to finish the job.
Yeah, this is in the Washington Post today. The headline: Sears Radical Past: How Mail Order Catalogs Subverted the Racial Hierarchy of Jim Crow. So that's something nice to know. Little Tony says, Lynn, I heard the woman in the St. Louis story was fired from her job. Yes, she was. She worked for a real estate company, and they saw the video and they said she is not welcome back here.
That's not the face of our employees. But
right.
Also in that comment thread are people saying that she hopes that she sues. So in that regard, I'd like to say that Missouri is one of those states where workers have absolutely no rights whatsoever.
No protection at all.
And they can fire her for whatever damn reason they please.
Well, generally
and
that's
she
true.
Has no recourse.
Right, but that's called an at-will employee, and I think most of us are.
Well, that's what
unless
she
you
be.
belong to a union, which hardly no worker does anymore. You're an at-will employee. I always was an at-will employee. I might have had a contract, but there was always a clause in my contract that said if I in any way held the company up to, embarrass them, they could get rid of me. So, I mean, if I ever got caught with pot, I thought, well, they could fire me for sure.
Boy, you were lucky.
I don't know. I always have, I'm like a kid in that I think nothing bad will happen.
We were just raised, and someone said it to me at a dinner party on Saturday night. Just said how mighty white of you. We are totally unconscious of our entitlement. Sure, we could do whatever we wanted because no one was looking at us.
That's right. That's right. How many black people are still doing time for what I did and continue to do?
All the time.
All the time.
Right.
It's disgusting. Anyway, listen to this. We seem to be on a certain theme here. Headline, Wall Street Journal: Colorado weighs abolition of slavery. Believe it or not, Susan.
Well, they're on cowboy time,
No. Well, Colorado voters in their November 6th election are going to be able to vote on whether, I guess it says specifically, whether to change the state constitution to read, quote, there shall never be in this state either slavery or involuntary servitude. It turns out, Susan, that the 13th Amendment, which supposedly abolished slavery in 1865, also says this. It did allow for slavery or involuntary servitude as, quote, punishment for crime, whereof the party shall have been duly convicted.
Right. In other words, prisons could make their prisoners work for nothing.
Right. And so you abolish slavery, but then you just arrest.
You imprison the same population.
Right.
Absolutely.
And it turns out that a lot of states still do not have. Colorado's doing something that other states need to do as well, because their constitutions do allow, as the 13th Amendment did, involuntary servitude. 22 other states have similar provisions in their constitutions allowing slavery. 22 other states. I don't know if Pennsylvania does or not. Rhode Island, in fact, is the only state that prohibits slavery in all instances in its constitution. Is that not amazing? Who knew?
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. But if you think about it, of course that's what it's about. And I mean, and that's where our license plates come from, sort of,
Yeah, yeah.
And I mean, I'm sure it's done as a way to fund the prison system, or was before we sold that, and then it just became a profit-making thing. So they've got to have a way to make money, and of course that's slavery.
For decades,
otherwise, why do you want to do it?
Right. For decades after the Civil War, it says some states used prisoners to work for private companies without pay. To work for private, so they'd contract prisoners out and make money off them. And it was just a continuation of slavery. And states liked the loophole, so that's why they've kept it in their constitution. Wow. Okay, can you handle any more facts? I have some more. This is so shocking. The number of homeless children in New York City public schools. Are you ready?
Yeah.
You're not going to believe it. 114,659.
That they know of.
Well, yeah. Well, that sounds like they know. 114,659, which is bigger than the population of the state capital of Albany. 114,659 children go to school from homeless shelters, from other, living in friends' basements, whatever. They do not have homes. And this is a record, I should hope, for the city of New York. But it's
But, think about it. What is the average rent in the city of New York?
Well, right. I know. How can people live there? It's just
a studio in the Isle of Manhattan will sell for $1 million.
Yeah. So
it's one room.
There's 144 public schools in New York City, in which 1/3 of the students are homeless. There's 144 schools where 1/3 of the student population is homeless. And here's one more fact that just it's mind-boggling.
Extrapolate a bit and think what you're asking those schools to deal with, and the problems that those kids come with, and how the hell they're supposed to have room in their poor little stressed out brains to learn.
And that brings us to the next fact. How many social workers do the schools have that deal with these kids and their needs, psychological and practical?
Probably one for every 350.
Well, Suze, you're usually better at guessing.
No, one for every 1,050?
One social worker for every 1,660.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I should have known better. Yeah, I mean, I could have known there's one per building at the most, maybe one per every 2 buildings.
Beyond belief. The amount set aside for social services pays for about 70 social workers, or roughly one for every 1,600 homeless students. The funding also, though, pays for more after-school programs and additional staff. God, I mean.
No, but this is the one time I found myself in absolute full agreement with Arnie Duncan, because I think he's got a lot of ideas about education.
This is Obama's former education secretary.
But what Arnie Duncan was heard to say in the last couple of weeks was that he has always been amazed, and I am adding parenthetically, as have I, that this country that decides that we are the most child-centric, that there is nothing more important than our children, refuse to spend any money on the education of our children. Therefore, I mean, and from cradle to just high school. I mean, no one's talking about pre-university at this point. We're just talking about being available to our kids.
God.
I mean, really, and we've got these parents who are screaming that they demand this, and this, but heaven help that you should pay for it.
And here's another thing that drives me insane. The city has not been able to get much help from local philanthropists about this issue. They're too busy, like, giving more money to Harvard or Yale or to an arts, an already wealthy arts organization. It drives me insane.
Let me contribute to the $1 billion endowment of Washington University.
I know.
That'll do good.
Oh, it just makes me crazy. And so
it's actually an argument that I had with Washington University when they came asking for money.
No,
and
I will
said,
never give.
Why? Yeah, when all you'll do with it is to go out and buy yet another apartment building in neighboring University City, thereby taking it off of the rolls for the public schools and further hampering that challenged population. No, sir. Yeah, I wouldn't help you do that. No.
No, the other thing they'll do with it is up the assistant football coaches. You see there's an assistant football coach.
Well, not at Washington U,
there's an assistant football coach, Susan. I forget for what, some southern university. The assistant makes $2.5 million a year.
Okay. Well, that's just disgusting. And ask what the English professor makes.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, New York City it says here, is arguably the philanthropic center of the world, but the only organization that has given any sizable amount of money specifically to support homeless students in New York is Deutsche Bank, which is, of course, from Germany.
Right.
They gave $1 million.
In bed with the Trumps.
Right. They gave $1 million at least. No American charity. I'm sorry. We are a despicable.
Yeah, we are just at those.
We're
disgusting. Those aren't our children, Lynn. Those aren't our children.
We are the nastiest, meanest, cruelest, immoralist, despicable people.
We're going to insist that you be born, and then we're going to watch you suffer, because that's the way we roll.
Yeah. Diane sends me a quote. I don't know I don't know who she's quoting, but this is the quote. The most dangerous place for black people to live is in white people's imagination. Wow. The most dangerous place for black people to live is in white people's imagination. We live in an America right now where we have evolved, but we inherently believe black people are criminal. That's it. We're a just racist nation. Ugh. I'm not liking us. I'm not liking us at all. Susan. Here's another little factoid. We had like 7,000 calls yesterday. We have no calls today. Isn't that weird?
Well, we're depressing the hell out of everybody.
I always depress the hell out of everybody. That's my job. This is a fact zone. This is, and
well, maybe if I'm here, they don't feel sorry for you and they don't call.
Well, I don't think it's a matter of them feeling sorry for me. I don't know. So anyway, listen to this. Remember, we'll soon forget her name, but Christine Blasey Ford. Ring a bell?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's the erstwhile victim, now lying, piece of crap.
That's right. And it doesn't matter. Trump said the other day that he mocked her because, as he told Leslie Stahl, doesn't matter. We won.
Right. And he's the president and she's not.
Oh, my God. Oh, there's another quote from him that is beyond belief. I'll have to find it. It's about the Saudis. Here it is. This was a quote, and I actually saw him say it.
Oh, I read the one from the Washington Post. I read it to
well,
Mother.
I don't know if it's the same one. Here's the one. They buy apartments from me. They spend $40 million, $50 million. Am I supposed to dislike them? That's the president.
Oh, God.
That's the fucking president. Okay, that wasn't the one you had in mind.
No.
So many
That one was fairly breathtaking. Mine was actually sort of almost more presidential. But
oh dear
but
God!
I can't quite remember what it was.
Okay, so back to Christine Blasey Ford. She, according to Business Insider, is still receiving unending death threats, and her family are not able to return to their home. They don't have any idea when they'll be able to go home, if ever. Isn't that wonderful? And Brett Kavanaugh is having a good time at the Supreme Court.
Yeah, poor him and his family.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm so tired of hearing about due process and innocent until proven guilty and all this stuff, as if he were, we don't have to go back there. We knew all along he was going to win, and he won.
I remember at the very beginning of that process, I mean, it was even before any hearing, somebody said, and they were met with startled, people were startled that they said it. Some guy just matter-of-factly said, she's going to lose. These women are going to lose. They always lose in Washington.
Yeah.
And I remember I was startled too. I thought, well, yeah, that was then, but this is now. The times they are a-changin'.
No, I didn't. I never thought that for a second.
Oh God, I just kept.
That's what made this so heartbreaking. That and if women can't react appropriately to this, where that group of white men have just said yet again, we can do whatever we want from the time that we reach puberty on, and if we want that to be disregarded, it will. No one will believe you. No one really gives a fuck. Go away.
Yeah.
If that's the way you want to live your life, don't vote.
Yeah. Incredible.
And meanwhile, now we're a mob. That's my favorite thing, because really they are terrified of women.
Yeah, women protesting are a mob. And did you see the White House, by the way, I think is about to change the rules for the ACLU will go after them in a heartbeat. But they're changing the rules of how you can protest in Washington, where you can protest.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, that's what they're promulgating new rules. New rules, yeah.
New rules?
Yeah.
Okay, what's the new rule for how you can protest? You can't?
Pretty much. They're going to make it expensive. There'll have to be permits. They're going to take a bunch of real estate away. so you can't be anywhere near.
Okay. I mean, but that's just ridiculous. The ACLU, you don't need the ACLU. Any old fool can tell you can't do that.
Well, we'll see.
You can't charge a fee that is designed to silence free speech.
This is a new autocratic America. We do have a caller, so let's go to the phones. Hello, caller.
Hey, Lynn. Yeah, I'm afraid I won't be any cheerier than you. I hadn't read or heard reports of that particular attempted extra constitutional stunt, but it's coming up. The ACLU sent out an alert
about it. Public comment closed down yesterday on it. It's going to happen.
Now that they hijacked the Merrick Garland seat and they have the a credibly accused sexual assaulter Kavanaugh, Bardo Kavanaugh, on the Supreme Court, who's on the record as saying that, a president is above the law. President can't be indicted or subpoenaed, and also that the president could pardon himself. So, a president is a king. He can do anything. He can absolve himself of any crime, according to Bardo Kavanaugh. What could better encapsulate the modern day right wing than the statement, we won, so it doesn't matter.
Right, there it is. It doesn't matter, we won. Yeah.
Right. Integrity doesn't matter. Truth doesn't matter. Facts don't matter.
No.
Nothing else matters. Respect for norms, traditions, institution, laws, nothing matters.
Well, we know this is what they're about. We won. And they do. And they did. And they continue to. Because Democrats just don't have a clue. So, just want to say.
Yeah, I mean,
there it is.
With a solid conservative majority, I don't know, though. I don't know. I have a little hope for John Roberts that maybe
don't.
Just maybe
don't.
He did in fact uphold the
ACA.
I mean, there have been some marginal calls, but he did indeed uphold the
He is
the Affordable Care Act.
But here's what happens when you move so far to the almost fascistic right as the Republican Party is going. Then if you pull everything that far to the right, then you start saying, maybe John Roberts, who, by the way, is right wing, but now he looks like a moderate? That's what ends up happening. So, Susan Collins is now a moderate. That's bullshit. She's not,
never a moderate.
And he's not.
She was never going to not vote to approve Kavanaugh.
Anything Roberts might do will be because he'll want to keep his court from looking as awful as it is. I mean, he might, in certain cases, try to, ameliorate things, or who knows. But that's the only way you can have any.
That's you're starting to implement bans on that. You're going to ban protest. You're going to try to effectively tamp down on protest, and then next will be free speech.
Well, that is free speech. I mean, it is. It's the First Amendment. They're going to eviscerate it. They're going to. And I'm not sure. So who is doing that? Is that the park police? Whatever. There's rules being promulgated, and it will happen.
Remember, this isn't entirely new. Remember the free speech zones of the Bush administration?
Right. Yes, you can protest if you get into this cage a million miles away from where anybody is going to see you. So those, I'm telling you. Get ready. We are heading into uncharted waters. Hey, thank you. Appreciate the call. I do.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Well, Susan.
Yes?
How about if we cheer ourselves up with an obituary?
Oh, yay.
I mean, really, it's always it's my go-to for
I know. Back when, America was great again.
Yeah. Well, this is a guy, he's a military guy. I don't know that I necessarily like his politics or anything, but Major General Sidney Schotschnau. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Anyway, he's dead. He was born. He was born in Lithuania. He died at the age of 83. He was born in Lithuania to a Jewish family. His name was Sasha Shashnowski or something. It wasn't good to be a Jew in Lithuania when he was born. So when the Nazis came in, his family, and he was 6 years old at the time, he was they were herded into a ghetto, and they were made to do forced labor. And he always said, look, this ghetto was actually a de facto concentration camp. He said it didn't have any gas chambers or crematorium, but he said nearly everyone in there died. He said, and the way I remember, he was a kid. He said, our camp did things the old-fashioned way. Several bulldozers would dig a ditch. People would be asked to move to the edge of the ditch. In most cases, they were naked. Automatic weapons would kill them. They would fall into the ditch, some wounded, some not dead. And if you were lying on the ledge, somebody would kick you into it. His family survived in that ghetto for 3 years. And I don't know how the hell his parents could have pulled this off. They found a way to get him out. He was 9 years old. Some of the forced laborers left the ghetto every day to do their work. And one of his uncles had a very long coat that he wore. And this 9-year-old boy was put under the coat, and he walked with his uncle through the gates, passing guards, passing a work detail. Can you imagine moving in exactly the same way and at a prearranged signal by his uncle, was probably jabbing him in the, in the side. He got out from under the coat and kept walking in the other direction. Somehow, he was to meet up with a woman wearing a red kerchief. This is a 9-year-old boy.
God, and how do they know there's only going to be one woman wearing a red kerchief?
I don't know. But I was thinking today when I was walking the dog, I'm watching parents walking their kids to the bus stop, which is 2 blocks from their home. And these kids are 7, 8, 9 years old. And we think they can't walk to a friggin' bus stop.
Yeah, your neighbor will call the cops on you if you try it.
Yeah. Well, here's what 9-year-olds can do. Okay? Anyway, he made it to the woman in the kerchief. A Catholic family took him in. Amazingly, his mother and his younger brother managed to escape as well, and they were reunited. His father escapes, joins the partisans living in the Lithuanian forests. And they end up surviving the war, and then on foot, train any way they could. They make a 2,000-mile trek through Poland, Czechoslovakia, and Hungary before getting to Germany in the fall of 1945. Why the hell they would go there? But in 1950, they got to the United States. And Sasha became Sidney. And he spoke no English, but he joined the Army. Started as an infantry private, rose to captain of the Special Forces, or Green Berets. He fought in Vietnam. He transferred to West Berlin in 1970. He was given command of an elite Special Forces unit that conducted clandestine intelligence missions in Eastern Europe. He did that for 4 years. He was the director of the U.S. Special Operations Command in Washington, and then was sent back to Berlin as the Army's commanding officer in 1989. His headquarters were the same headquarters that Hermann Goering had. And his residence had once belonged to the Nazi finance minister Fritz Reinhardt. So this little kid, who was terrorized and luckily survived, ends up with his office in Hermann Goering's office. He was appointed commander of the Special Forces and commanding general of the John F. Kennedy Special Warfare Center. And listen to this. He had dropped out of high school to join. And while in the service, he got his GAD, then he got a bachelor's degree from the University of Nebraska, and a master's degree in public administration from Shippensburg State College, now Shippensburg University, right here in Pennsylvania. Pretty amazing story, huh? What a life.
Yeah. And, and we complain because we have to go grocery shopping today.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I say I don't really like us very much.
No.
And Bob wants to know, did I mention Microsoft's Paul Allen?
Yeah, Paul Allen.
Well,
he doesn't.
Millionaire. Yeah, he doesn't need me.
Billionaire, excuse me.
No, I like to do obituaries of forgotten people or people you don't know. So, Paul Allen, he's dead too.
Yeah.
So.
He was, as far as I'm concerned, because one shouldn't speak ill of the dead, but he was one of the least impressive of the new moguls.
Why is that?
Well, I just, everybody else was loudly focused once they made their gazillions on trying to do something good.
I think
he was.
No?
Well, he did a little, but mostly he bought sports teams.
Yeah, but I think he could afford sports teams, and I didn't read the whole obit, but he did some, philanthropy.
Well, I'm sure he did some.
A lot. No, but I think he did more than you think. I'm not sure. Whatever. What can you do with all that damn money?
I don't know.
Yeah. Be
envied mostly.
Well, I think that's something that people do like, right? Well, I think, Suze, are you heading back to Chicago tomorrow, or
Thursday?
Tomorrow.
I have a meeting in the morning tomorrow, and then I'm just gonna hope it ends in a timely fashion, so I can beat the rush hour traffic.
Yeah. Okay.
But
Okay. Well.
Yeah, and then I'm gonna don my battle armor and go to that southern city, which the longer I'm away from, the more I detest, because I can see it so much more clearly.
St. Louis, yeah. It's got a pretty awful history, and you can see it's still there and infects the city. It's a real racist town. Yeah, well, I think this one is too. America's racist. That's all there is to it. And if you don't see that now, then you're Willfully Blind. Okay, that is our uplifting show of the day. Okay? Now go out there.
Always happy obituary.
Right. Hey, Susan, I understand the Packers won.
They did.
Did Mom stay up to see the end?
She said it wasn't even. She said it wasn't late. It was just a thriller.
So she hung in there even though they were behind all that time. Well, that's good.
Yeah. And my phone's ringing.
Okay, go ahead.
Right.
Goodbye. Goodbye,
okay,
Sue.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. And as for you guys, sorry. I apologize for being reality-based. Don't know what I can do about it. See you tomorrow.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.